this like modern world is like designed one size fits all, sort of. It makes turns everyone into anonymous people, but then it never actually fits for any one person. It fits the imaginary average person. And there's a moment in this that really drives that home for me, and both times I like it just like sets off a spark in my brain. But like one of the restaurant workers is like ushering people in and like giving them sort of a gentle pat on the back as they walk by, and one person walks by and does that, and the next person is a little person, and he's, reaching over his head. He doesn't realize because he's not even looking as he does it. And it's like, just that moment epitomizes to me, like, yeah, his films and his ethos as a director is not about like an idealized France or something. It's just about like, we should recognize everyone's individuality and like not try to make everyone conform into one thing.
Yeah, I really like that. I know what you mean. Okay, here we go.
Talking Tati.
Talking Tati.
Here we are in 1967. You might go to the film experts for your opinions on esoteric French comedies, but some like it unauthorized, and I'm Jay Brooks Young.
And I'm Zach Domes.
And here we are talking about Playtime, film by Jacques Tati, one of the most revered films ever, and one of the most unique films ever. There's kind of nothing like this. Had you seen it before we started this project, Zach? I don't remember.
I did. I had seen it. I'd seen it with friends. Somebody in the group of friends had mentioned it, and so we all watched it, a big group of us. And what a fun time. Playtime. Yeah.
It's great on a big screen, and it's great with an audience too.
It really is. Yeah, it is. I mean, right off the bat, I could say something like, you go in seeing shots of this, stills of this, and you're thinking, you might know that it's going to be something like a Chaplin-esque slapstick sort of thing, and you don't get that. You don't get that. It's not the same. So with a group, it's nice to have the crowd's energy, because there are definitely moments that kind of glide. They're not. It's not just action. There is a pace to it that's sort of slower. It's always entertaining, but it's like there's definitely moments where it's hitting the same beat the whole time, and it feels kind of slower the whole time. Again, not a bad thing. It's just like a crowd really carries that slowness, really makes it more interesting.
Yeah. There's something here where it's trying to more fully depict this modern life, and it's departing from just being an out-and-out comedy in favor of giving you some sense of the rhythm of life. Right at the beginning, in the airport, we get that like couple. One of them is getting ready to leave, and she's going over everything with the husband, making sure that he's all set for them to be separated. And it's like, it's teaching you sort of how to watch the film, the pace that it's going to move at, because you just get little people walking in and out of the frame, and this sense that there's going to be this sort of ecosystem on screen, with a lot of the time not a central point that you're meant to keep your attention on. It's you're going to see a whole ensemble, a whole sort of orchestra of people and action happening, the way that we, think of cities as being so full of all these different things happening at one time. Yeah, it's interesting because Tati gets compared to Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. Certainly they all come from a sort of theatrical comedy background, but in this film, he really wanted to sort of depart from the story being about one central character, his Monsieur Hulot, and he wanted it to be about a whole ensemble and be about the city you know?
Yeah, which you're going to have like a lot of wide shots in that case. I mean, Edward Hopper is someone who one would think of all the time watching this. Just these kind of wide, spacious.
Like deep focus.
Yes. Yeah, deep focus. Well, where everything is in focus in the frame. Yeah. So high aperture. But creating because the spaces often are so wide, and sometimes there's, few people, or even when there's a lot of people, it feels what's this word I can't think of right now that everyone's using because of video games that are doing it. There's liminal spaces.
This is I feel like we talk about that a lot on this podcast, liminal spaces, but this is the film. Liminal space, the film. Yeah. It's
sort of uncanny how many times it feels like Hopper, though. Like you could just distill just the one a certain frame you could just take from this and side by side a Hopper painting, and you would wonder if it was the same artist creating them. I'm thinking of like the TV, both the people looking into the TV at each other. Such a Hopper scene.
Yeah,
and I mean, even to the point where there's times where they're in stores, they're in like a convenience store or things like that. I mean, he had to have been pretty inspired by that. But yeah, so then he's taking that kind of framing, and then he's filling in that framing with his style of, I don't know, quirky slapstick kind of moments. But it isn't the same as Chaplin, like you said. It's gentler. And also you have to pay attention. Like with someone like Chaplin or those guys, it's the action and the humor is right in your face. It's very obvious. But with Tati, it's very kind of sometimes barely noticed.
Yeah,
it's a little
incidental.
Detailed. Incidental. Yeah. And even it's creating more. It's filling the frame with all the different things that he's been placing throughout. So I'm thinking of the restaurant scene now where somebody mentions you have to do something about these chairs because they're leaving a design on the back of people. Yeah. And then that's not really mentioned again, but you'll see that design on various other people throughout that scene. And it's always kind of, I noticed at one point it was like on a woman's back, like it had stained her back, but it was like, I only noticed it because I was like looking for it. Otherwise, there's something else going on that your attention should be focused on.
Yeah. And you have so many more things kind of happen in that scene. And then when the American is like setting up his little restaurant inside the restaurant, he's now checking people's backs for the mark. And if they have the mark, they're allowed into his little section. A lot of fun, recurring, overlapping gags.
Yeah.
And it is lighter than a Chaplin or someone, because there isn't kind of like a grand action or conflict. Monsieur Hulot is not like a hero who's gonna kind of miraculously rise to some need in the story. It's just sort of a day in the life, and his story is really no more remarkable than any of the other characters. They all kind of like have some strange little journey throughout the day, and then the next day starts and they're on to the next thing.
Yeah, you had seen it in a theater. What was your second watch like? Watching it again for this podcast, and having seen it not so long ago either. I mean, you only watched it maybe a year ago, less, in the theater. So what was that? What was the experience like seeing it again?
There was a lot that I had forgotten, because you're taking so much in through the whole film, and it's not short, it's a full 2 hours. So there were certain moments that stood out in my mind, the glass door breaking and the guy holding the door handle, pretending that there's still a door there.
Right.
Stuff like that, or when Hulot is trying to catch up with the guys he has the appointment with, and he sees his reflection and mistakes him as being in the other building, like stuff like that I remember. But a lot of stuff I kind of forgot about, and I don't even know if I can say I like picked up on new things. It felt like a new discovery, a lot of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, the one thing at the very end, I didn't remember if I had noticed it the first time, but when the tourist woman gets the gift from Hugh Lowe and she's opening it on the bus, there's the scarf, but then under that is those flowers that have like the bell shape, and it cuts to the street lights, and they look exactly like the flowers. They have that same shape, which is, I don't know, a fun touch. Something that I feel like I didn't notice before. And there are so many, little very intentional touches like that you can miss. So I feel like it's going to be fun to watch over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one part that I'm thinking of that I had forgotten about was how there's these tourists that come in there and they're all excited to see Paris and sadly she's interested in the building that looks like all the other buildings that they've been putting up in other cities that they market. So this idea that people are traveling the globe and they are completely missing the cultures that are within the places they visit, and they're more interested in like the shopping centers that are going up, but then they're on the street level and they're walking around. It's a whole busy scene, and then somebody opens a door, and that happens to be probably in the building itself, and they open the door and the glass reflection shows one of the landmarks of Paris. It's the thing that they're not caring about any longer and that they're missing. There's something about that makes me think of how marketers or the industry or groups of people who are persuading us to care about certain things, they can have that kind of control over the populace. The media, whatever it might be. Like, you can see how playful that is as an idea, but you can also see how that could be the case, that if there's a landmark advertised, then people will go to it simply because it's advertised. There's many landmarks in a city, and then there's like a select number that people focus in on that everyone has to go see. But there's so many different historical buildings. There's many times I'd be walking through a city and pass by this huge building or this interesting building, and I'm like, what is this? And barely just has a small plaque on it, and built in some year, a little story about it, and you're like, why? Wait, this is amazing. Why isn't this on the map?
Yeah, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that because people go to some tourist spot, then other people go because that's a tourist spot, because people go to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know how they cast those American tourist women?
No, I don't know. I don't know much about the background, so I'm curious.
He went to a nearby U.S. Military base and just cast a bunch of the army wives to play those roles, which is perfect.
Great. So, right. So that makes sense why the audio is from people, probably actors. So he had actors. I'm guessing he had actors actually say various things, because it isn't connected. Like, you can never see a person saying what the audio is. Yeah,
it's all recorded in post, right?
Which some of those are so funny, but even today by today's standards.
Yeah.
Just it really gets tourism perfectly, and I love that he found people who are like actually basically tourists in a way. That's so funny.
Yeah, they were perfect for that role.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was. It's a legendary production just because it took so long. It had been almost 10 years since his previous film, Mon Oncle. He spent so long designing this big set. All of this he builds for the film, which takes like more than a year or something. And then the actual shoot itself kept extending because of bad weather, or he ran out of money. He had to go get more loans. And it took over a year to actually shoot the whole film, and then something like 9 months to record all this sound and design it and edit the film. So it's
Wow.
it's crazy, and yeah, I mean, it fits with what he wants to do of this ensemble, this sort of anonymous group of people moving through the city, where there aren't really like regular actors in this film. That fits the thematically, but it also probably helped that he was able to employ these people for as long as he had to, or maybe shoot around them if they weren't available or something, you know.
Right. That's insane. I mean, and what that did for him, that allowed him to do, is really create and control the color, the light, and all of that. Like, there's so many scenes where it's like almost all gray blue, and then like the brown suit coat he's wearing, or a little dash of color here and there, and it's not often you see films like this, even today or then, where it's like the control of color is so strong, and it just watching people walk around a set like that is so enjoyable and so incredible. And the thing that I felt the first time, I felt this time though, is I know he have that one of those buildings built at least. I'm guessing that a good number of the other buildings.
Yeah, I think everything you see basically.
Yeah, I mean, my guess would be that one of the buildings is real in the sense that you can go in and walk up and stuff, but some of the other buildings are probably just like a frame.
Yeah, I think like the outside of the restaurant seems like a separate set from the inside.
Right. But like the thing that I felt the first time, and I felt this time again, is it's kind of amazing to me knowing the background story about how much time and money he invested and created this massive set to mimic a city, and yet I don't feel like we're in that city very often. I feel like 80% of the movie is spent inside rooms, and so like the fact that you look out a window and you're like, oh, that's like a real set is interesting for sure, but it's also like, it just made me think, like, did he invest more time and energy into this thing than he needed to? Because it's not like we spend that much time. It's like paying. It would be like I guess an example here would be like if it'd be like if you paid an artist to have their paintings inside of a room that you're shooting in, but you only show those paintings for like 5 minutes out of the whole film or something, And that was like the biggest cost, was that.
Yeah. It is very impractical, and right, especially up to this point, most directors would cut that corner and just have a rear projected, scene outside the window. Even people that are using this format, he uses like a 70 millimeter film to, better capture all of the detail of these little parts of the set. But even then, other directors doing that will still cut those corners sometimes. But it's all like a part of this vision. It doesn't really make sense, but it's amazing that he actually went through with it.
Yeah. The set of the city itself, that doesn't make much sense at all. I think the rest of it for sure works. I think having the guy walk down that long hallway in the beginning is fantastic, and all sorts of moments like that when it's inside really work well. And they work well because of some of the things we've mentioned, where you can have multiple different groups of people all doing the same thing in different parts of the frame. So yeah, the 70 millimeter makes sense for that because it's going to pick up all those details. The wide sets make sense for that. I can't imagine the lighting that they had to use for this. I mean,
yeah,
insane amount of lighting being done. The restaurant scene, other scenes, because it's such a wide shot constantly, and often there's very little shadow. There's very little distractions. It's such a wide shot for such a wide set, and yet it's minimal feeling too at the same time. Like, everything feels very minimal and very specifically designed, every inch of the frame. So in that sense, the impracticalities of like a large set worked out because he made it work. But then you step outside for a minute and then you're like, wow, that's a giant, huge building that they built for this. And then you go back inside and you spend most of the time inside. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he did it. He pulled it off. And in a way, this is going to be, an inspiration to future directors who do similar types of things and don't hold back, big blockbusters of the 90s that didn't have CGI perfected, which, by the way, it's not perfected. So I don't know why directors keep thinking they can do everything in front of a green screen. But yeah, like, Christopher Nolan as someone who continues to do these types of things, and Spielberg, these are directors who could look at this as an inspiration to kind of sell to their producers. Yeah, practical effects, right? It just makes more sense.
That's, yeah.
As impractical as practical effects can be, they end up, they usually work out better in the long run. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't think we were going to think about practical effects that broadly, like, Playtime can be an inspiration to Cronenberg and
Right.
people like that. But that's true. No, this is
it's to say that not necessarily effects. That's just the example. That's just the example for arguing that more money spent can be a better thing. Like inspiration to artists in general who are like, I need money for this thing I want to do, and seek out that money, and then they're given it, and then the thing they produce, just whether or not it's good, is just like inspiring to see artists go crazy, and then other artists follow suit, and they end up creating insane pieces of work as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just now I'm thinking of just how we live in a world where artists struggle, right? It's a real struggle for artists all the time, and so here's a guy who went over the top and succeeded.
Yeah, this is a beautiful film that can't be substituted. Like it really makes you look at the world differently, when you spend 2 hours taking this whole thing in. So it's beautiful, and it's worthwhile for that reason, no matter how much money and resources it took. Yeah, he was like running out of money making this all the time, but part of why he was able to finish it was because, he could go to the government and help, and they would help him secure loans and stuff. And this probably would not have happened, in the United States, in a place where the arts are not as valued, and we don't have a history of supporting the arts and viewing film as something worth investing in a public sense.
Right. Yeah. It's a shame that system has always been that way. And so, yeah, exactly.
I kept thinking about Synecdoche, New York, and
right.
This is like the real version of that, almost the real life version of it. But now that we talk about like public funding and stuff, that's funny, because in that film, the character gets like a MacArthur grant or something for his theater, and that's how he funds, building a giant city to make a production in. That's
hilarious. I forgot about that. That's hilarious. I was thinking, so another thought I had about this movie, and it's funny that you mentioned that, Schenectady. It sort of feels this way too, but it's like a sci-fi movie, but with all like modern day setting. You know what I mean? Like it's like he's making fun of modern society in a way, and tourism and all that stuff. But everything that he's doing and the way that the feeling of the whole thing is like sci-fi. It's like if you looked through a sci-fi lens at our world.
Yeah, everything is exaggerated.
Yeah,
just enough for it to feel sort of strange and futuristic. And now it doesn't really feel that way. It was like realistic enough that it kind of resembles the world of the 80s or something today,
Right.
He was pretty predictive about where design was going, and where what all the sort of new spaces that were going to be built were going to look like.
Yeah, you're right. Like if I watch Space Odyssey, I don't feel that way at all, right?
No.
There's no way that the inside of a spaceship would look like any of these things. So comparing that to this, you're right. He does get a lot of things pretty spot on, and he's able to do that just by being minimal. Because there's so much minimal design these days. I'm thinking of inside the elevator. There was this poster. It was like an escape route or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, it looked like it could have been made today, but really how he does that is he just makes kind of a complicated escape map, but using like straight lines and two colors. And then yeah, he foresaw the future getting minimal, becoming more and more minimal. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy, like mazes of escalators and floors that look down on other floors and all kinds of stuff like that. And then touches like, well, the apartments you brought up before, there's a building here in Chicago that whenever I pass it always reminds me of that, because it has big open windows jutting out of the building like that. But then the one guy, he takes his dog out for a walk, leaves that apartment, and the dog is walking on this little patch of green that borders the building. That's the only like actual ground. Everything else is like concrete. And that's like something that's exaggerated for effect in this film, but that's how it is in this city or in New York or somewhere. There's so little actual green space and so many people out walking their dogs with nowhere to actually do their business.
I know. I used to visit New York several years ago, and I would bring my dog with me, and there was this one patch of grass down at the far end of the sidewalk, so we would walk down there, and he would do his business there. but my dog didn't want to like go in the same spot twice, like in like two consecutive days apparently, and that was a no for him. So we'd get to that spot, and he would recognize it, and he would look up at me with sad eyes, and I would say, "Okay, so we have to walk further, find another spot."
You can't be mad at him. Like
no, I guess not. I'm mad at the city. Weird. I'm mad at the civil engineers. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, whoever designed the landscape, architects on that. But I am happy to say that there's a Art Deco building that they just built in New York. Like somebody designed like a really kind of fanciful apartment building that I noticed. So some designers have heard the cry for more interesting designs to go up these days than just this kind of brutalist straight edge buildings everywhere, which was neat.
Interesting.
Yeah, like just so many buildings, right, that look like just minimal, kind of boring. Just so many boring buildings. I know that the point is to cut costs, but man, by doing that, it makes everything way less interesting. Unless you orchestrate a bunch of moving groups of people doing a bunch of silly things within them.
Yeah, and that's the heart of this film, is like the sort of human spirit rises up out of all these weird boxes that we put it in, and it persists, and connection happens. The way that everything goes wrong in the restaurant, but it lets people actually connect and have fun, and they get to play music and sing together and stuff. That's what right. What I love about his films is they're not, you could say they're conservative, but they're not like exclusionary. They're in celebration of people, of everyone's sort of eccentricities, and that we just kind of we bounce off of each other, and we learn about each other, and we figure out how to coexist. This like modern world is like designed one size fits all, sort of. It turns everyone into anonymous people, but then it never actually fits for any one person. It fits the imaginary average person. And there's a moment in this that really drives that home for me. And both times, I like it just like sets off a spark in my brain. But like one of the restaurant workers is like ushering people in and like giving them sort of a gentle pat on the back as they walk by. And one person walks by and does that, and the next person is a little person, and he's, reaching over his head. He doesn't realize because he's not even looking as he does it. And it's like, just that moment epitomizes to me, like, yeah, his films and his ethos as a director is not about like an idealized France or something. It's just about like, we should recognize everyone's individuality and like not try to make everyone conform into one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. I know what you mean. There's a way that he can, with this film specifically, that he can have all of humanity showing up within it. And and then doing something like what you just said, kind of being playful in that way. It's the humor is inclusive, like you said, and it's like even the tourism aspect, making fun of that is it's everybody knows it's funny. Everyone. This is a joke that like anybody can get down with, even to the person who's the most touristic person of all. They would be somebody who would appreciate that kind of satire that he's including there. He's not making fun of any specific person. He's making fun of the aspect that humanity has, the capability of humanity being that way. It's like these are things we do. Part of globalization will include these sort of funny things, and it's meant to be made fun of. It's supposed to be made fun of. It's like, if you can't make fun of it, then what's the point? As long as you're not offensive, and yeah, he never is. There's even a moment where there's like a Japanese Parisian, I think, who's walking past that one stand that the woman's taking a photo of. She says, "Oh, this is so Paris," and then she keeps telling people to get out of the way, who are all Parisians.
Yeah.
The Parisian teenagers who are like wearing American clothing. She's like, "Oh, get out of the way," and then the Japanese guy walks through, and he just sort of does like a traditional Japanese bow to her, but they don't really even say anything. He just keeps moving along. And then there's another guy who's like another photographer. He just comes and stands. It's like each of these, they're just each different like kind of characters, and the way he includes them definitely is cartoonish, because the whole movie has a kind of cartoonish vibe. But it's like he's sketching these people in that he's seen in Paris. He walks around. I imagine he walks around Paris and he sees these various types of people. He sees the tourists. He sees people who've come to France from different cultures, different places, and then just regular Parisians who've lived there and their families lived there for many, many years, who are all quirky and do different things, and he's showcasing that. He's showcasing that in a lovely way.
Yeah. Everyone in their individual way is a little funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can kind of point that out and not have it be offensive if there's sort of something celebratory behind it as well.
Right, and he's also it's subtle, but he's also self-deprecating in a way, because like Chaplin, he's kind of an aloof character, just wandering, never really knowing what he's supposed to be doing, and being invited into places, never thinking, should I go into this place should I accept this invite from this person I don't really know? Sure thing, I'll go in there and have some I don't know what he does. Does he drink tea? No, he just goes in and watches TV in that one place and then goes to the restaurant. But just a kind of aloof and wandering, and
like polite to a fault. It's like he wants to be nice to everyone, and that leads to him kind of signing up to do very strange things for people. But it's like it's a good way to move through the world for him. He gets to like connect with strangers and stuff, and he has this sort of like tender thing with the tourist near the end, because he just wants to like see the goodness in people and treat them nicely. But then a lot of funny stuff happens because of that.
Yeah, I think people would come to this movie. Some people may come to this movie needing a little more potentially, like we said in the beginning, because it has no like villainous characters. It has no real like threat. Now I'm thinking Chaplin again. I mean, he would include these people who were like really out to get him, chasing him down and things like that, and a whole cat and mouse. But with this, there's never any problem that sustains longer than a scene. There's never really any predicament. And the whole thing just sort of bops through these various scenes like an odyssey almost. And for some people, I think that would come across as slow and meandering. But, for most, it's going to be just fun because of the sets and all that. But that's really what does it. That's really what makes the movie what it is. These kind of nice little scenes, but they're all happening within expertly crafted sets and framing and all of that stuff. Because I will say, and you've seen, and this makes me think of his former work. So you've seen two of his previous movies, his former movies, right?
Yeah, I've watched Mon Oncle, and we both watched Jour de Fête, his first feature-length film.
Yeah, Jour de Fête to me was similar. It was cute, and it was funny, but it was funny in a cute way. What did you think of My Uncle?
Oh, I absolutely love that movie, and I put it right next to Playtime. I really love, you get the sort of satirization of modern life and modern architecture and stuff in that film, but that's not the whole thing. You're not in that world the entire time. So you also get to see the sort of like old style village or neighborhood that Monsieur Hulot lives in that film. And there's something very delightful about how he captures that, and how each one of his neighbors is an interesting little character and stuff. And there's fun stuff like a pack of like roving dogs that just sort of like seem like they're going nowhere in particular. They just kind of like roll through a scene like a bunch of tumbleweeds or something. Like they're like children that are like pulling innocent pranks on people, and the film will just follow them for a little while. You get something like the later part of the restaurant scene in Playtime, where it's really celebrating the connection of people and the way that people were more connected in each other's lives before we started like living these very curated modern lives. So there's something about that that's very romantic that I really, really responded to in Mon Oncle. So I think it is just as much a masterpiece as this film, even though it is a little bit smaller scale.
Interesting. And I'm assuming all of the like humor and the kind of slapstick quality is the same, I'm guessing.
Yeah. And it follows his character a little bit more, but it's got a great sort of ensemble and these scenes that really build in the same way that they do in Playtime. Yeah, it's really everyone should see it. It's incredible. And yeah, I have not seen his later two films, Traffic, or I think the other one's Parade. So I'd be very curious to see those. It sounds like they are slightly smaller scale, but I don't know what to expect. This was this was his big grand attempt at something as big as he could make it. And it didn't really make money, when this came out. It was really long, and he kept cutting it down. Apparently there is something around 15 to 30 minutes of footage that was lost. No one knows what happened to it that he cut from the film. But it was a poor timing of no fault of his own, because this came out late 67, early 68, and then, by like April and May, you have a lot of civil unrest in France, the sort of student protests and stuff, and I don't know, people just kind of like forget about this film, you know. No one cares about it after that. I think he has to sell the distribution for the US, and it gets cut down even more and doesn't really do well here. It's like after this he kind of can't make a film with the same freedom, or certainly at this level again.
And that's always a sad thing if it's music or movies, when then the timing of things and the production of things, how it's advertised, how it is publicized, all that has a major effect on how it is entered into the zeitgeist or remembered culturally. Because you would think this film would be more remembered and more popular outside of the movie-loving crowd, the cinephile crowd. But it isn't. You know, it can take some people a while to finally find it. And you just wouldn't think that. You wouldn't think that. You know, I would say more like people should know about it, and then maybe they don't know who did it. They don't know who made the movie, but they know of the movie. It's the kind of movie that I would feel like that's the way it should be. But yeah, it isn't. Even today, it's not really that way.
Yeah, it's a strange thing. It's like kind of difficult to sell to people or explain to people in a sense, because it is so unique.
Yeah. Well, but like, okay, here's a counterexample as a movie that got remembered somehow is, well, I guess it was also a Broadway thing, but I'm thinking of Stomp. Do you remember this?
Sure, yeah.
Right, and I know that it's that's why I'm saying like Stomp captures people's attention, and it becomes more popular because it's like activating. It's like not activating many senses, but it wants to be entertaining and captivating and capturing your attention. It wants to be the whole time. And it does that because it's like building out the sound, and it gets more and more orchestrated in a sense. Like it pulls you in. Whereas this movie is so fascinating because it isn't always like going out of its way to pull you in, you know? And I think that's it's a kind of a wild thing for a movie that seems like it should be like wowing you the whole time. Ends up kind of like you just become part of the scene rather than like you're not always enraptured by the scene. Sometimes you're just sort of sitting there in the restaurant with everyone else, just sort of watching what's happening. And you can choose to kind of pay attention or not. It's not constantly grabbing your attention.
Yeah, it's comes from an impulse very different from what you're supposed to do in film.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was part of the kind of tepid reception, was people thought of him as a Chaplin type comedian and director.
Yeah, right.
And here he is making something almost avant-garde
right,
in that way.
Right.
I think he said sometime later in life that he considered himself an anarchist, and that people would probably think that was old-fashioned or behind the times, because I think he means it more in the sense of like a Jean Vigo, like an early 20th century anarchist, and a humanist. I kind of like think of those as being synonymous. And there's something like a Jean Vigo that an impulse leading him to make a very unique film that you just wouldn't, a regular director would not arrive at a film that kind of challenges you and says something about our kind of collective human condition the way that this film does.
Right. Yeah, it's like a Metropolis, but not the sci-fi quality of it. And then it's as playful as Zazie does La Metro, but not as unhinged.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's absolutely trying to just like share humanity, capture humanity, and then express that back at us.
Yeah. And in that spirit, are there any specific characters or moments that you want to highlight, or that got a good laugh out of you that you can think of?
That's a good question. As a photographer, the moment that I did mention already does come to mind, which is the one where she's like, "Oh, that's Paris. That's so Paris. And that's a scene of like a little woman, and that I've definitely been at fault for that very thing. Although for me, obviously, I'm not pushing anyone out of the way to capture
Right.
a certain scene, but I mean, to some degree, for sure. Like, I may not go up and tell the person to move, but if I see a scene and then there's like something, some person or something in it that doesn't feel quite right, I'll wait, or if it's an object, I may move it, but I'll wait. But I think what he's definitely saying in that scene, which I appreciated as the photographer who might do something similar, is like, just take the photo of what it is. Like, what he's doing in this movie is he's including everything within it. He's pulling all the characters he knows of in, bringing them into the movie. So, in some sense, like, what are you doing? Like, you're taking a photo of a certain thing, and yet Paris isn't like that anymore. It's an interesting idea of like, she sees this scene and she says, "Oh, that's so Paris," and then a bunch of other parts of Paris are walking through it.
Yeah.
And she's trying to avoid those parts. It's
It kind of gets at that idea of like, all documentary is like constructed.
Right.
That there's no such thing as like perfectly capturing real life,
That's it. Yeah, and to those critiques against that early documentary filmmaker, what was his name? Robert or something?
Oh yeah, Flaherty.
Yeah, I find it to be a little, I don't know, I get it, but I'm also like, that's the way it is. That's how it is. It's unavoidable.
It's a constant
Yeah.
like sequence of choices of what you do and don't show.
Exactly. Even if you shot it, even if everything was like a still video capturing moving parts within that, like, you're still going to choose what to show and what not to show in the editing process too. So like, and no one's sitting around watching like a documentary that's like only like a one long take from like a security camera or something. So no matter what, you have to edit and choose and select and create some kind of context for the viewer. So it's just a matter of whether or not you're doing that from a place of sincerity.
Yeah. And it's funny. I think sometime in the 50s, Godard said that Jacques Tati had arrived at the first French neorealism, which is kind of a fun way to think about this. He is doing something very deliberate, but with the intention of giving you the sense of reality in a way that most films don't feel real. Like, there's something here that aligns with that sort of Andre Bazin idea of depicting the real world, especially the deep focus and having such a wide frame and not cutting around things, that you get to just see these scenes play out and these people sort of, inhabit the world.
Yeah, you would love to think that Andre would have, sat front row as they did and thoroughly enjoyed this whole thing. Yeah, I love that.
I think so. Just some little moments that I really laughed at. In the like sales exhibition space, the German guy who mistakes Hulot for the guy who's like going through their files and taking papers and stuff. I love that whole sequence. I love how that little kleptomaniac guy like whips those papers under his arm, the sound it makes. And then that the German guy is like berating Hulot, and it all crescendos with him slamming the door that doesn't make a sound. That's a really fun bit. And maybe my biggest laugh this time was when they go to the drugstore, and it's this really kind of like sickly blue fluorescent lighting, and it's just like the hum of the lights in this quiet drugstore, and everyone is, Hulot and like two other guys are staring at these plates of food that you can buy, and none of them look like food. They look, they're these crazy like pastel colored like gelatinous dishes and I don't know. It was such an amazing like visual gag. He picks one up and it's like gesticulating, like it's like a Dr. Seuss item or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny. Like how did we get to this point where food doesn't look like food? Like,
right.
What went wrong? We're like
Right.
in this space that is like a hospital, and we're supposed to eat these strange objects.
Yeah. Like our taste has been so destroyed. Like taste is morphine. Yeah. And you can do that with desserts, because I feel like with other dishes there is a specific, like, oh, you don't cook pasta this way. This isn't how you do pasta, or something like that. But when it comes to desserts, that is like the world of food where you can kind of do literally anything, and people will be like, ooh, it tastes sweet and very good.
Yeah.
The only like, a lot of times it's just a matter of if it's too sweet or not sweet enough. Like that sometimes is all it is with desserts.
Yeah, that's funny. He just like grabs like a little sandwich or something.
Yeah, he goes for the sandwich instead. Yeah.
Yeah. Another guy walks up, also gets just like a sandwich.
The baguette.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. If I thought of another thing I wrote down, was just in the very beginning, there's a shot of the sky. That's how he starts this whole movie, and the credits start off with just the clouds floating by. And I just thought, having seen this movie before and knowing the background of how much he put into this, that to me, it's like that's what you look to when you're kind of imagining some project the size of this one. There is no bounds. It's like, is there any other place to look really than the sky to imagine limitlessly? So I loved how he starts that way.
I like that. Yeah, you have to dream up something totally new.
Yeah.
And then kind of through the whole film, we're going to be in this sort of world of high rises where the sky is kind of out of sight. It's sort of blocked out by those buildings.
Right. Oh, that's good. By the buildings that they're building literally everywhere in the world.
Yeah. Those posters, they're so good.
So good.
Yeah.
There's so many good scenes. That question alone, you could do another hour of just talking about all the various scenes. It's that large and expansive of a movie. So
yeah. It feels like a cast of trained comedians, and who knows really how experienced any of these people are, but he finds what's funny about every single one of them, or even just like finds a sound effect that's gonna make them really funny. The sound design is like a celebration. This is like everything good that you can do with like Foley work and sound design.
Yeah, the sound design was so fun. You don't get slamming doors that are quiet and like tapping of shoes down a hallway without sound design. So yeah, the whole thing is so great. Yeah, and I mentioned this all of the time because it just so happens to be the case. But how many movies are there that like make fun of the bourgeoisie? It's unbelievable. It really had like a Triangle of Sadness vibe during the dinner as things started going wrong and the air conditioning unit stopped working and all that stuff. It's like all these people who have a lot of money. You're not making fun of them, but you're like producing an environment that's stressful to them, and then you're like watching how that will go for them, and it's never that great. They have everything's made out for them, and then a couple of bad things start happening, and they're like all upset. It's like there's one moment where the couple has to walk up this one step. It's like hardly a step at all. The light's not on the step, so the guy kicks it, and the light comes on, and he's like, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. All these little moments. I mean,
I know. I kept thinking about how you have to design this whole set specifically so you can like see that step in each frame. You have a couple different like angles on it, and it's incredible that like you still see that step flickering as well as all the other action on the frame. in each of these shots.
Right, you design the set that way and also design it so that it can start to be destroyed towards the end and lived in. Wow, so good.
It's a great
stuff.
film.
Great stuff.
And next week, we're going to have a departure, something a little different. We're going to be talking about Lindsay Anderson's film If... The first role for Malcolm McDowell, who most know from A Clockwork Orange. Yeah, this is a really, really interesting film that will be fun to talk about. Heading to Britain.
What's that?
We'll be heading to Britain.
Oh, yeah, we'll be heading to Britain. That's right. Yeah, we won't have to do Clockwork Orange because we'll be reviewing this movie. So we'll do a different Stanley Kubrick. And then for any other, or for all of the episodes, and if you want to write us anything like that, go to unauthorizedpod.com. And until next time.
Until next time, peace.
Peace.